Good morning. It's Monday, April 5th. And this morning I want to talk about one of the things that I consider the most damaging to this country, and that is campaign financing. I think there is way too much money paid into PACs and into individual campaign fund setups. And I believe this money is destroying our democracy for two reasons. One is our campaigns run for far too long. There's no reason in the world why we have to have campaigns that run for years and have fundraising dinners and all kinds of events to make money for the candidates to spend on their advertising. I think campaigning should be limited to, say, 90 days or maybe 120 days, and that's it. But it's the money that bothers me. All the dark money that's given out to our elected representatives for causes that most of us would probably vote against. I listened to a podcast the other day, and it was interesting because they were talking about a meeting held by one of the Koch brothers. I don't know which one it was. I could probably find out, but he's the one that's still alive. The other one died. And he's very upset about this bill, H.R. 1, because one of the things in the bill is to make sure that people who give campaign funding have to identify themselves. Right now, campaign funding is what they call dark money. Nobody knows who gave the money. Well, I'm sure people know, but it's not in the public domain. So you have wealthy individuals that can give as much money as they want to any cause anonymously. Right now, there is no limit. In the bill, they want to set limits, and they want to stop corporations from being allowed to give money. And I believe the limits that they're talking about are $50,000 per person. And I think there should be a limit on what you can give anonymously. I think the public is entitled to know who's giving more than a certain amount of money. Let's say we had a limit. Let's say you could give $5,000 anonymously. But once you give more than that, you have to be identified. And I would say that you have to be identified after you've given $5,000 in total. In other words, if you chose to give $5,000 to this PAC and $5,000 to that PAC and you wanted to be anonymous, I would be against that. Once you've given your $5,000, you can give more, but we have to know about it, we the public. Because I think it's important that the public knows who's donating for what cause and why are they donating. Obviously, the people who are donating for these causes probably do not have the public's interest at heart. They are trying to convince the congressman or the senator or the mayor or the president to do something special for them or their business or their industry or their union, whatever it is. So campaign funding, in my mind, is a major contributing factor to the ruination of this country. Now, this bill, which is known as For the People Act, is not a new bill. It was introduced in January of 2019, and it passed the House. But as with all the bills that were done at that particular time, it went to the Senate. The Senate, which was controlled, if you remember that far back, by Mitch McConnell. And McConnell did nothing with any of the bills that came out of Congress because Congress, the House, was dominated by Democrats and the Senate was dominated by Republicans. And so McConnell just shelved all of these bills that were sent to him. But now that it has a fighting chance of getting through the Senate, it's come to the surface again. The bill has much more in it than just the campaign funding issue. But the campaign funding issue is dear to my heart, and I really think it's the crux of our problem in this country. This bill is getting more attention because of its voting rights section than because of campaign finance. And they want to change some of the rules for ethics for federal officer holders. And they want to limit gerrymandering, partisan gerrymandering, they call it. So it's a very comprehensive bill that covers more than just the campaign finance issue. It's trying to stabilize the rules for voting rights, which would be a wonderful thing if we could do that. If we had a set of rules for voting rights that every state would use, the states could control the procedures, but they couldn't control the rules anymore. Another segment of this bill, which is very important also, although I really never cared about whether the president or the vice president showed their tax returns, but in this bill, it would require the president and the vice president, as well as presidential and vice presidential candidates, to publicly disclose the last 10 years of their income tax returns. It also would put an end to the use of taxpayer money by members of Congress to settle employment discrimination claims. I don't know how many of you realize that Congress had a special fund set aside to cover the congressmen in activities that would be considered harassment of some kind or sexual improprieties. Many lawsuits against congressmen are just buried, and they use taxpayer money to pay the plaintiffs off. That's an unconscionable thing that we, the American public, are paying for the infidelities of our public officials. So H.R. 1 has some wonderful things in it, and maybe I'll do another rant about the specifics of some of these items. But right now, dark money is what I consider one of the biggest problems in this country. So I am hoping that when this thing gets to the Senate, it passes. And I am hoping that that meeting that took place, that the podcast announced, goes for naught. And we shall see. We shall see. That's it for now. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.